Remember when I was talking about what is Apex and I said it was strongly typed? That's what we're going to talk about right now with variables. Variables are essentially containers. They hold whatever it is that is assigned to them. A variable can be a word. Aside from certain reserved words, it could be a letter. It could be shorthand. When creating or declaring a variable, we need a specific data type of what that variable is going to be. As an example, I'm just going to be going in the project, I'll be going to scripts, and then I can just go to the Apex folder. It really doesn't matter right now where you put this. I'm going to create a new file. We're just going to call it variable. And it's just going to be a plain text file. As we're talking about variables, first we need to declare a variable. And then so by declaring it, I'm just going to put integer I. So this is just going to create an integer for I. The strongly typed is going to be the integer. And we'll be going over what integers, strings, and a whole bunch of other data types are. But the integer denotes the data type. Then what I can do is I can assign. So when I am putting in this equal sign, that means that I am assigning the integer I the number 1. So if I just run that with our shorthand of Shift-Alt-R, I can see right here, actually I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So I can see right here, I'm running it against the org. I'm running the integer I and equals 1. I don't have any output, but it ran correctly. There is no errors within this. Let's say that I'm going to add or try to turn that into a string. So if I do this, where I is equal to T, string with the quotes, which again we'll go through strings again later on, I can see that there's an error right here. Illegal assignment from string to integer. We also can declare multiple variables at once. So if I go to integer x, y, z, you can see here there's no error. It all got declared correctly. And then I can also initialize multiple variables at once. And so initializing is adding a value to the variable at the same time that it's being declared. So y is equal to 8 and z. Okay. One thing to note as well is that if you see at the end, I'm using this semicolon. So what the semicolon does is within Apex, you need to use semicolon at the end of your statements. We'll kind of be showing when you use it. That's more of like when you declare something or when you're running a class or anything of that nature. But if you don't have this and you try to run it, you're going to see an error. When I run, I have unexpected token because it doesn't really know what is going on. So that's one thing to always check. Okay. So when we run this, what's happening is the integer x is going to equal 3, y is going to equal 8, and z is just going to be a null value. When you initialize it without anything, it just creates a null, which I can show you as well with system debug. So the next thing that we're going to go over is system debug, and what that does is it's kind of a print function where you're able to print or put in the debug logs whatever you want. It just takes any type of object or variable, and I can't type. So as we can see right here, and then in the debug, or in this log, I can see debug 3, 8, 3. Oh, because I put in X twice. Sorry about that. And you can see right here it's null. The other thing to note is that it is not case sensitive. So I can go integer I and then integer I, and this is going to be the same thing. Apex is not case sensitive, it is case insensitive. A lot of the times the naming, and we'll go over naming conventions later on, but a lot of it is more used for readability and then also for other languages as well that are case sensitive. A lot of the nomenclature comes from those as well. So I can see right here I got a little squiggly, and down here it says duplicate field I, because we already declared on this line I. So as we go through the data types, we have plenty of practice for variables. I also wanted to introduce the system debug because we're going to be using system debug a lot as well. And so I wanted to show that before anything else, because in these next lessons, when we start going through all the different data types, we're going to be using this a lot just to output and show what it is that is available. The other thing that I wanted to show is because we are connected to the org, we can see right here the Apex tutorial org we are connected to. There is this little button or icon right here. And what this will do is it will open up the org. So there are CLI commands, and I can go through, I'll create a lesson for CLI commands as well and run through just a bunch of them. But I can see with Visual Studio Code, if I needed to go into the org right away or very quickly, I can just do that. I can do that as well if I had other orgs that were connected. I can do the same thing and open them up really quickly. So then again, if I were doing this in Developer Console, just to show you how I would do it in Developer Console, if I go to debug and then open the anonymous window, we'll make this a little bit bigger. I can go in integer I, I equals to 3, and system dot debug. The nice thing too about Developer Console is that it does bring up some of the different methods for these classes. Visual Studio Code can do the same thing. However, right now I'm just doing it in a text file, so it's not going to be bringing up any of those in Visual Studio Code. When we start going through classes, it will be able to do that a little bit more. And then I'm going to open up the log right away. So if I don't, it's going to create a log, which you'll see down here, but it's not going to open it. So I can just execute. And then in the logs, I see a log is created. And then I see the log here as well. And I can see that there's a debug of 3 right here. I do have the ability to just click on debug only. And I can see that there's a debug of 3 right here. So it printed out that 3 into the logs. All right, and that was all I wanted to show for this lesson. The next we'll start to talk about the different data types that are available within Salesforce and how all those play together.